Hello friends, welcome back. This is Mehjabin. Today I am going to explain William Shakespeare's Sonnet 14. This is one of the procreation sonnets composed by the poet, and it is addressed to the fair youth like all the previous 13 sonnets which I have already explained to you. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet methinks I have astronomy. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck. The poet is saying that I do not make my judgment by looking at the stars. I do not make predictions by looking at the stars, and yet methinks, and yet I think I have astronomy. That means I do have astrological powers. I do have certain abilities to predict the future, but not to tell of good or evil luck. But I do have to say that those astrological powers that I have, I cannot use those powers to predict to predict the good things that are going to happen in the future or the bad things that are going to happen in the future. I cannot make such vast predictions. I cannot predict the plagues of deaths or seasons quality. So I cannot make predictions about plagues. I cannot make predictions about deaths. I also cannot make predictions about the quality of seasons. Nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell. And I also cannot tell about the fortunes of people right down to the very minutes, pointing to each his thunder, rain and wind. I cannot make predictions about how much of thunder, rain or wind a person might receive in his life. In other words, the poet means to say that I cannot make predictions about how much of good things, then reasonably good things, or how much of bad things that might happen in a person's life. Or say with princes, if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. And he also says that I cannot make predictions to princes if certain things will go well in his life, by oft predict that I in heaven find. But at the same time, the poet says that there are very many things that I can understand from the way the planets move around in the heavens. By oft predict that I in heaven find. I often find I can study a whole lot of truths from the movement of the planets, from the movement of the stars in the sky. But at the same time, I do have some limitations. I cannot make predictions about the plague. I cannot make predictions about death or about the qualities of seasons. I cannot make predictions about how much of rain, thunder or wind a man might receive in his life, or how much of ups and downs he might face in his life, how much of good things might happen, how much of sorrows he might have to shoulder, he might have to face. These are certain things that I cannot make predictions about. But at the same time, the poet says that he does have astrological powers. He does have powers to predict the future. Now, what kind of powers does he actually have? We will see in the rest of this sonnet. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive. Now the poet is addressing the fair youth. He is talking about the eyes of the fair youth who is his friend, and he has been addressing this fair youth in the previous sonnets also. But from thine eyes, that means from your eyes, by looking at your eyes, I can make certain predictions. But from thine eyes, my knowledge I derive. I can get some knowledge, and constant stars, in them I read such art. So he says that I get so much of information from the constancy in your eyes. They are constant stars. That means they are not moving like the stars in the sky. And from those stars, by looking at the stars in your which are reflected in your eyes, I can make a whole lot of predictions, especially predictions related to your life. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and constant stars, the constant stars of your, he's talking about the eyes. These are the stars he's talking about, the eyes of the fair youth, and constant stars, in them I read such art. That means I get so much of information, so much of knowledge from the beauty in your eyes. At truth and beauty shall together thrive, and I get information about truth and beauty by looking at your eyes. At truth and beauty shall together thrive. Both truth and beauty will last for a very long time, if from thyself to store thou wouldst convert. That means if you make any definite effort to store yourself, and or in other words, if you make some effort to beget children, that is what the poet is trying to mean. If from thyself to store, that means you need to make some effort to store your beauty, and you can store your beauty only if you have children. If from thyself means yourself, to store thou wouldst convert, that means you have to make some plans, you have to make some changes in your life. Or else of thee this I prognosticate. Or else means if you do not make this step, if you do not take this step of thee, that means about you, about your life, about your future, this much I can predict, this much I can foretell. Thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. That means you will not last in this world for a very long period of time. Your impressions will not last in this world, because you have not left behind any children. Thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. That means both truth and beauty will come to an end in this world with your end. When you die, all beautiful things in this world will die. There is no hope for that, and as a result, the truth that you have not the truth that you had come to this world with such beautiful features, that truth will also be wiped away from this world forever, because you are no longer there in this world to prove to mankind that you had come to this world in a very beautiful shape and form. Well, that's all for today. I will be uploading the summary next. Until then, bye.